Hey, what is going on, friends and allies? Welcome back to the Whiskey Cove. And on today's video, we talk a little bit about 10 whiskeys that I'm always hunting for. Run the video. All right then, folks, welcome back to another new and exciting episode here on the Whiskey Cove, where we will be discussing 10 whiskeys that I'm always hunting for. These aren't going to be super allocated whiskeys because everybody's hunting for super allocated whiskeys all the time. So you already have your answers. So if it's something like Black Pappy, then you know that I'm hunting for it because everybody is. These are going to be kind of below that category. Some are a little rare, some aren't. And some are rare just because they only do specific releases. And we'll go into each of them as we go through them and why I'm looking for these bottles. With that being said, we have the live stream raffle giveaway for St. Jude charity event, November 22nd, 7 p.m. Mountain Time. We will be giving away a bunch of samples. We have 3 sets of different samples like George T. Stagg, Taylor Single Barrel. We have some Doc Swinson 15-year samples that we're going to be giving away. It's going to be a great event, folks. Please come and join us. You can still buy the raffle tickets. So far we have about 60 sold, and we have like 9 prizes, so there's still like a 1 in 7 chance of getting something through that raffle. $10 a ticket. All the information is down below. On today's episode, let's get into things. So bottle number 1, 1792 12-year. I am always looking for this bottle. Fans of this channel will know by now that I don't like to overpay for whiskey. It's not that I'm cheap, it's just because I have the patience to be okay. You know, I'm not, maybe I find this bottle today for $100. I'm okay with just waiting until the week after next or whenever it is I run into this bottle again. I'm paying MSRP for it. This is such a great bottle of whiskey. People like this bottle of whiskey, but it's not talked about as much as something like a Weller 12. But I think it's every bit as good. Yes, Weller 12 is a wheated bourbon, but this is the best stuff that, in my opinion, in the 1792 lineup. You can't get single barrel picks of these. I think MSRP is around $60 truly. In Colorado, you're going to be paying about $80 for it. It is just so good. I'm on my sobriety kick right now. The days are taken away that I can drink again. And I'm really enjoying some of these notes that I'm getting from this whiskey. Plenty of cherry, plenty of like dusty rickhouse notes, really nice sweet caramel corn there as well. This is a great bottle of whiskey. It looks awesome as well, and it's every bit as good for the price. 48.3% ABV. I wish it was maybe a shade higher, but that's not really super allocated. And I feel like I'm seeing more of them now than I ever have, which is probably a common theme in whiskey right now. Next up, we're gonna go with the Maker's Mark single barrel picks. So Maker's Mark just released new single barrels. So they used to look like this, but now they're like the square ones, like the cellar aged up here on the top here. But I'm not even talking about these ones. I'm talking about this single barrel picks before. They have like this charcoal front. They are in the same bottle as this, but they're the first kind of, and it's not a single barrel pick, it's like a stave pick if you like, because they utilize different staves. They don't have single barrel picks. So if you find these old ones where like the bronzy front, they are some of the best value that there is in whiskey. What makes them so good is that they have the mocha stave. So these newer rounded ones and the square ones don't have the mocha staves, albeit they just released a bunch of like the throwback recipe that does include the mocha staves. I picked 2 up from Costco and they were only $60, and I was really happy that I was able to get these. But these older picks, you might not be able to find them, but they are still out there. Very hard chance of being able to find that, but those are bottles that I'm always hunting for. The Maker's Mark OG private selection picks. Next up, we have Sagamore Spirits, the finished whiskeys. So I have rum, I have sherry, I have port, and I think I have ale, a beer one as well. This is the rum cask finish one, and I'm always looking for these, the different variations. Not the ones that are like the 8-year barrel selects, but the finished ones. I haven't been seeing any newer releases of late. Either that or they're just not coming to Colorado as much. Maybe people are kind of spent out with these already. This is such like beautiful sugarcane notes. Really like fruity there as well, like peach skin fruit. It's a really fun whiskey. This is mostly all MGP stuff. I know they've started doing their own distiller right now. I'm not sure if they're using that for their barrel finish stuff yet. I haven't tried any of their barrel finish ones with their new distillate, if they're doing that. So that's wait to be seen, because that can be a pretty hard process to go from sourced stuff to your own blend. Sometimes that hits a little different, as Hoyo West is finding out now. That is the Sagamore Spirit's kind of barrel finish whiskies. And let's talk a little bit about Hoyo West here, shall we? And that is these. I'm always on the hunt for these bottles of whiskey. That is the Hoyo West Whiskies Double Rye Single Barrel Picks. This one is probably the rarest single barrel pick you can get from Hoyo West, and that is their maple syrup pick. So this was aged for 4 years and 4 months in maple syrup barrels. And you're probably saying, well, they kind of still do the picks. Well, the new picks are completely different. I have one, not up there, but I do have some. It has like the blue black label on them, and they're not single barrel picks anymore. They're almost like small batch picks. So they'll do a big small batch of like Chardonnay finish one, and then they'll send them out nationwide. And then when they're done, then they'll get like a Barbados run and send them out nationwide. It's not a traditional single barrel program anymore. So it's really lost this uniqueness. And these old black label ones are the ones I'm still hunting for, especially ones that have the finishes that I don't have. What I really like about them is that it's mostly source distillate. A lot of the newer stuff is kind of like I said earlier on when I was talking about Sagamore, is their own distillate that just hits a little differently. So if you'll be able to find these black label ones, I wouldn't pay more than $60 for them, because you're just being gouged at that price at that point, because these are, if they've got these, they bought them for the old prices, which is around $50 a piece. So I'm always on the hunt for these black label double ryes. They are such tasty bottles, and they have wild different finishes across the board. Next up, Old Forester, the single barrel black label. So I was fortunate enough that I was turned on to these recently. I didn't really have much of an experience with these bottles, but they are really good. If you think the blue labels are good, and you might be someone who prefers barrel strength or cask strength, then maybe the blue labels are for you. I enjoy cask strength, but I really like whiskey to be around 100 proof to 110 proof, or 50% ABV to 55% ABV. I think that's where it has this most flavor and maybe not as much burn that kind of detracts from that. And these black label Old Foresters are like a great addition and a kind of great representation of what whiskey can be in that kind of ABV bracket. This is Warehouse H and Floor 6. If you can get something with Floor 7 or Floor 8, that kind of kicks it up even more. These shouldn't be more than like $70, but much like everything, you know, prices are going up across the board. But these are whiskeys that are bourbons that I'm actively hunting for right now. And this is one of the more recent ones that I'm kind of hunting for all the time. Next up, this is a pretty quick one and a no-brainer for fans of the channel and people who watch it. John J. Bowman Single Barrel. I love this bottle of whiskey. I love it so much. I basically pick up a bottle anytime I see it for around $55. I think I'm about 8 deep on these bottles. I think somewhere in the back of my mind, I'm thinking that the warehouse is going to burn down or something and I won't be able to get it again. So I'm kind of really magpieing quite a few of these bottles. A great bottle of whiskey, every bit as good as the H. Taylor single barrels, and for the price. I can't talk more about that bottle. I've spoke about it so much on this channel from about 2.5, 3 years ago. I keep talking about it because it is that good. Moving on, and we have Jack Daniel's Single Barrel Proof. This isn't just specific to this bottle. We could have had the rye here as well. And I'm not just looking for any old single barrel. I'm really looking for the highest ABV that I can find. I think the highest ABV I was able to find on these has been 68%, on the rye 67%. And I want to find something as close to 70 as I can get. I know that when they first released the ryes, they were some that were hazmat, and I really want to get one of those bottles. So in a perfect mind of mine, I will stumble into a store and I will see one of these at hazmat or one of the ryes at hazmat, because I'm actively looking for really high ABVs of those, because I think the Jack Daniel's in general is just very easy to drink, but when it gets higher up in that ABV, it really brings home some of those flavors and it condenses those flavors, and it's so rich and approachable for the ABV. And I really want to get my hands on higher ABV ones. So I think like the highest I have here is 67%, and I, you know, if I can see one that's like 69%, I'm definitely gonna jump on that. 3 bottles left and some bangers. We have Weller Full Proof. Not just any old Weller Full Proof, and not just any old Weller. Anything from the Weller lineup that is a single barrel. apart from Weller single barrel, because that's already a single barrel, and that wouldn't make sense. So any Weller single barrel, in the essence of, Weller isn't traditionally a single barrel, and I think that I've tried all the Wellers, fortunately, and I like them. And I think it's really awesome when I stumble on a Weller single barrel pick to see the variations and how it compares to the regular editions, because they are generally better. So anytime I see a Weller single barrel, I always want it. I always will make the effort to go to that store. If someone posts that someone's dropping a barrel, I will wait out for it a little bit. That gets me out of bed in the morning. They shouldn't be that expensive. Every Weller should be less than $100. I won't pay more than $100 for a bottle of Weller. These you'll usually sit at the full proof, somewhere $60 to $70. My favorite picks are probably the Weller 107s, the non-chill filtered ones, the single barrel picks. They're really top tier whiskey. So anytime I see a Weller single barrel, and they do Weller Special Reserve single barrels too, so you can pick one of those up. They're not as good as some of the other Weller single barrels, but it's interesting to see some of the variations. Moving on, we have the Doc Swinsons, just the different finishes. So I have so many of these different additions from Doc Swinson's. You can see a ton on the shelf here, ranging from peated whiskey to this one, which is a Brazilian Amburana, to port finish. They are all very, very well done and very well finished. Doc Swinson's source all their whiskey from MGP. Usually most of the stuff is around 5 to 7 years before they put it into a barrel to finish. And all the finishing, like I said, is just top tier. It is my favorite finished whiskey that I'm drinking right now, and I'm always on the hunt for the different barrels. I want to try to get every single barrel that I can, because they generally don't go back to the stuff, and no barrel is the same. This one specifically, the Amburana one, is basically like Cinnamon Toast Crunch with coconut milk over it. It's fantastic. It's such a great bottle of whiskey. This was one of the first single barrels, or the first single barrel to come to Colorado. Great bottle of whiskey. I can't speak highly enough about Doc Swinson's whiskey. And then lastly, this bottle of whiskey is something that has just come on my radar. MSRP on this is around $60. I wanted this bottle so much I was willing to pay $120 for it to be sent to my door. And this is a bottle that I'm actively hunting every day that I want to try to get it. Problem is, you will not see it in stores in the US, because this is an international bottle. So the only way to get this is to fly somewhere, internationally or maybe even local. I don't know if it'll be local, and that is Wild Turkey Rare Breed. Not any old rare breed. This is Wild Turkey Rare Breed, non-chill filtered. It is so good. What makes this different to regular Wild Turkeys? Well, this is non-chill filtered. The proof on this is 116.8 proof, which sits a little bit higher. Oh no, this is the same ABV as this one. I think with Wild Turkey Rare Breeds, they can come in a couple of different ABVs. I think that's true, but this one is really special. It has some of those Wild Turkey tasting notes, kind of like the bacon, spices, and the really nice wood presence, but it's not funky at all. Some people refer to that Wild Turkey funk, and this just doesn't have it. This has a little bit more cherry, a little bit more brighter berry notes, and for that ABV and proof, it just drinks so easy. And I've talked a little bit about all this on the channel before. We did a Russell's blind. Russell's 15, both the Camp Nelsons, Russell's 13, and this bottle. I had lined them all up blind with Charles, that bourbon dude, and I was left with 2 whiskeys that I was trying to taste through for the winner. This was blind. We had this bottle and we had Russell's 15, and I was bouncing between both of them. Ultimately, the Russell's 15 just edged it out, but that should tell you how good this $70 1 liter bottle is. Do not sleep on this. And if you're someone who's flying internationally and you want to pick me up a bottle, let me know. I will happily get it off your hands. So this is a bottle I definitely want and I'm actively hunting for. They were the 10 bottles. Like I said, I could have talked about a lot of super allocated stuff, but that doesn't really make sense. Some of this stuff is findable, but it's very unique in kind of very specific single barrels that I like to select and pick up. So, a little bit down below in the comments. Is there any like specific single barrels or bottles that you're really trying hard to get? I would love to know. With that being said, like the video, share the video as we drink through the world's whiskies one glass at a time. Thank you so much for watching. Cheers.